Hello, and this is TV Hub Official 1 here again with another installment again in the Red Dwarf Series 1 reviews, and this is the final episode reviews, episode 6, Me Squared. So this episode, Me Squared, was the final episode from Series 1 of science fiction sitcom Red Dwarf, which is first broadcast on BBC2 on 21st of March 1988, written by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. So this episode follows the cliffhanger set by Confidence Paranoia after this, where there are two Rimmers now on Red Dwarf. So this episode received the critical reception that it was one of Grant's favourite shows, and despite coming 25th in the Red Dwarf's magazine readers poll with 0.9% of the votes, the episode considered one of the better efforts from Series 1. And is one of the successes of the first series. We start off with the SOS distress call from Holly, as usual with another joke, and Lister starts off the episode as he organises his stuff in his quarters, which is what is his and what is Rimmer's. Rimmer's enters the room as Lister finds Rimmer's tribute video of his death. Rimmer says that his death was one of the most important things that happened to him, and we will get into this idea as the story progresses. Rimmer is organising to leave with all his things. He's happy to leave Lister, whose habits has driven him mad. They talk about this not working together in their quarters. While Rimmer tells Lister how he's given him a bad time, Lister tells Rimmer that he really annoyed Lister a lot as well. Rimmer blames Lister for stopping him from being successful, and Lister disagrees and tells Rimmer it's not his fault at all, but it's just Arnold Rimmer himself doing all the problems. Rimmer will be sharing his life with his clone hologram next door, at first thinking it would be a great idea, feeling proud and happy to be with him who he thinks is great himself. This obviously continuing on from Confidence Paranoia, the last episode, with our cliffhanger. Lister then makes fun of Rimmer and says goodbye as Rimmer leaves. Kat arrives in her next scene with his megaphone, looking for Lady Katz. Meanwhile, Lister feels ecstatic to be alone and to do what he always wanted to do in his quarters, messing around the room, putting the socks on the ground, and then feeling like he has to put them up again, back in the basket. He then puts on the video about Arnold J. Rimmer's death. He spins through the boring bits about the poetry recitals that Rimmer has organised in the video, and gets to the bit of the actual final moments of Rimmer's life, when he is in the drive room and Holly tells him that he has not fixed the drive plate properly, and there's an explosion. Rimmer is thrusted across the room, with his final words being gazpacho soup, and Lister wonders why these are his final words in a Citizen Kane style death. Kat arrives and he is looking for a lady, singing this out loudly, and Lister tells him there are none around. The two Rimmers in our next scene exercise, jumping up in the air and fighting about when they will be getting up the next morning, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, keep going back earlier and earlier to get as much work done, and trying to prove each other better over each other, with a conflict brewing up, and one of them saying that they should go studying when they wake up. One of the listeners who is more aggressive, Rimmers, who says that they shouldn't just go to sleep anymore because it's like 2 in the morning and they're going to get up soon. And one of them wants to go to bed, the other one says, get up, we're going to get to work right now, start on our studying right now. After a ship exterior, we get to Lister, who finds Rimmer's journal diary, and he finds an entry labelled gazpacho soup day after looking through a few of the different days, which is 6 months before the disaster that happened on the ship with the radiation leak, and Kat pops up again. Lister is messing around, and Holly suddenly appears and tells Lister that they are being tracked by fighters from the fighter planes from the Norweb Federation. This is the Northwestern Electricity Board. Holly tells them that they are after Dave, as his leftover sausages before he left have grown and covered 7/8 of the Earth's surface, and also he left a few cents in his bank account. With help of compound interest, he now owes now owes over 98% of the world's wealth, and only Lister and Norweb have any money. Holly tells him that Norweb are after the ship and have tracked it, and they have a final demand for £180 billion. With Holly finally saying yes, it was an April Fool's joke after a few seconds of Lister in shock, and he made it up even 6 months before April. A nice funny moment in there. Then Lister hears Rimmer fighting with Rimmer in the room beside, and the two Rimmers are acting like general officers to each other, making fun of each other, even though they're just making fun of each other themselves, and saying that nobody likes the other person, and they fight, and Rimmer feels incredibly hurt, one of them, and leaves to go back to Lister. And we get a nice bunk scene, some talk, and Rimmer just trying to hide it up, cover it up, and say it was a professional disagreement, but saying they had a bit of a squabble, and Lister obviously knowing this already. Next, Lister, Pussycat and Cat are in the cinema watching something, Citizen Kane, as Rimmer asks as he comes in, telling Lister move over. And we have an animation joke, as it's not Citizen Kane. The other Rimmer comes in, and the conflict begins as they fight over scene positions. One Rimmer sitting in front of the other, and obviously you can see where it's going from here. A lot of immaturity, and Lister not agreeing with this for once. As the squabbling escalates, Lister decides that none of this is working out, as do the other two Rimmers, and that one of them has to go, and Lister randomly picks between the two, and knows that picks one of them that is going to be erased, and he tells that one to meet in the drive room in 5 minutes. The other Rimmer is happy that the other one is going with an evil idea. Lister and Rimmer and other Rimmer see each other again in the drive room. The other one is not going to be erased, and says he's going away, and meets the other Rimmer making his way to the drive room to be erased in his gear, facing death, facing the possible elimination as it will happen, as he thinks will happen. And he goes into the drive room alongside Lister, where he'll be erased. Rimmer asks Holly to give him hologrammatic alcohol, which he drinks copiously. And finally, Lister decides to ask Rimmer, the vulnerable Rimmer, about gazpacho soup. We got a funny moment here where Rimmer confesses everything and tells him all about the gazpacho soup, how he met with the officers and didn't know the soup had to be served cold, and Rimmer was haunted by this day. And Rimmer says that if this hadn't happened, he would have been admiral if he knew that gazpacho soup was served cold, and this is sort of excuse, and he blames his parents and tells Lister to turn him off the street now. So Lister tells Rimmer that he already got the other Rimmer wiped, to the dismay of Rimmer, to his surprise, and he tells him that's how he got Rimmer to tell him about gazpacho soup. So he's being clever here. He fake promises to never bring it up again about gazpacho soup, as Rimmer never wanted this to happen, so Lister promises with him. This calms Rimmer down, and he decides with the other two, Cat and Lister, that they should go and leave for a drink to end the series, and Lister says super for the final word of the series, which sort of reminds you of, well, gazpacho soup. And we end this episode and all of series 1. So that was it for Me Squared and for series 1, and we finish off on a light note with that funny reference over to gazpacho soup. Also, speaking of references, we have two in this. We've the Citizen Kane reference twice, with the Citizen Kane style death from Rimmer, with him dropping the snow globe, and also another reference, and Julius Caesar, and other things like this. So all in all, I talked about this episode. I'm gonna think it's a good surprise coming back to this. Haven't seen it in ages actually, and actually quite memorable. Mainly the one thing I really remember from this episode was the big squabble between the two Rimmers, one of them being the hologrammatic clone of the other one. They're both holograms though. And I also remember the Norweb Federation thing, which was quite... First time I saw it, I actually thought it was actually a real thing that was happening on the show the first time I saw it, so that was good. Also in this episode, Kat not getting really any show at all. One funny moment I think I remember when he came out of the wardrobe, and pretty much that was it for that bit. He was looking for a maid at the beginning of the episode, and he really got such a short showing time in this episode, and I noticed it more than the others for some reason in this one. Yeah, because this was a character study, so I just really noticed him not being there. And again, Holly being pretty awesome in this episode, getting a bit more of a show in this one, as opposed to Kat not getting any really show in this one. This is Holly at his best, I think. The Norman Lovett Holly. This is sort of when he gets to his prime, really, getting into the character properly, and getting used to it properly. The basic plot of this episode worked pretty well, different from Kachansky, and in this episode I felt that the last episode I felt Rimmer being quite a hero. This episode was the exact opposite. Lister was healthy again, backing up, and you got to see a happy Lister for once, not just any old sort of bored, miserable Lister we saw in the last episode. So it was a great contrast between the two episodes, with Rimmer being a stark difference between the last episode, with an angry two Rimmers I should say, and Lister being more of a hero in this one, as opposed to the sick one from the last episode. This was written pretty well. I've seen it done before where they've had characters squabble. I quite think it was quite a same quality as the last episode. I think they both work in a series, as the last episode had they both work watching him back to back. So Confidence and Paranoia and then Me Squared, because there was a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode, and that works really well. And a bit of sci-fi in this episode, and a bit of backstory for Rimmer, which is important to see, and we'll see this for Lister as well in future episodes. So all in all, thank you for watching, guys. This one was good. I really liked it, and it's a great way to finish off Series 1. Hope you watch all these episodes, enjoy them. I will be back for Series 2, the Red Dwarf reviews, probably in the next month or so, November, December time. So you can see them coming up later on in December, and more reviews of different shows coming soon. Goodbye.